I wanted to draw two different objects, but with very different textures, but both using pencil. So I chose a small pepper and a pine cone. And I was thinking about the sort of marks I was making and how the pencil was going to sit on the surface of the paper and how I could control that and manipulate it to emphasise the differences between the objects. And I began with a 4B pencil, just sketching in some of the darker tone on the pine cone, using just very short little stippling marks and keeping it quite uneven. And then you can see me switch to using a dart. And with the point of the dart, I'm indenting tiny little lines into the surface of the paper. And this is so that when I switch back to drawing with the pencil will sit across these little grooves, leaving a little network of these fine white lines within my drawing, which otherwise would be really hard to achieve. And I kind of switched then between a slightly darker pencil, so I've now gone for a 6B. And again, I'm working in very small little marks, just building up small amounts of mark making and texture within the drawing. And then I started working on the pepper, and I began with a 4B, and although there's a lot of tone on the pepper, I didn't want to go in straight away with a very dark pencil or pressing very hard. You have a lot more control if you build up your tone in layers. So I then switched to using a blending stump and just blended the tone that I had on the paper into a much smoother kind of surface. Then began working with a 6B darker pencil, and then switched between using the pencil, the blending stump, and an eraser pencil. And I really like working with an eraser pencil. You can see the white pencil here. It changes the surface quality of the pencil on the paper, and you don't have to actually rub the pencil away. Just rubbing over the top of it gives a slicker, smoother finish on the paper. And it was this quality that I was trying to bring out in the drawing to emphasise the difference between the two objects. And most of the highlights were down the right hand side of the pepper, so I then went back to working on the pine cone and introduced a darker tone down the left hand side, so I was keeping the light source consistent between both objects, which is going to help to really make them look very three-dimensional. And I continued to add some little patches of very, very dark pencil, and particularly on the pepper. So where you have this very high contrast light next to dark in a drawing, that's always a really good way of helping to describe a surface which is very hard and shiny, and the light reflects off it in a very distinct way. Whereas on the pine cone, the light falls across a matte surface in a much more diffused way, and I tried to draw the tone using broken short marks and create lots of variation within the pressure and the mark making in order to reflect this.